So this is the spectrophotometry lab. We're using the Allura Red. Jim, would you let's look at the samples here that we have. The Allura Red stock sample that Jim is holding is what we're going to be using as the standard. We're going to be taking 1, 5, 10 and 15 mil samples of that specific stock solution. You'll also have another sample that you'll be dealing with as well. This will be marked as unknown, or it will be in a Gatorade bottle. So it'll either be in a Gatorade bottle or it will be in a standard bottle with an unknown written on it. Make sure you use the correct one for your standard. Don't use the unknown for your standard solution. Use the one that has Allura Red specifically written on it, and that's what you'll be making up your samples with. Okay, so this is how we're going to clean out the pipette, the volumetric pipette. And you'll notice we've got two pipette fillers here. We've got a green one and a pinkish one here. And one is bigger than the other. And the bigger one is going to be used for filling it up. So we're going to go ahead and use that one for the cleaning. So we're attaching that to the top there. It's fairly tight. And I'm going to zoom out here a bit so that we can see. Okay, so you can see what Jim's doing is he's rolling up the wheel here, and he's just filling the pipette here with just regular garden variety water. We're going to do that 2 to 3 times and just empty it. You'll notice he's emptying it into a waste beaker here. Alright, so just do it one more time here, please, Jim. Might be a bit loose. It's okay. That's good. And then we're going to do the same thing with the stock solution here. So whenever you want to clean something out, just as a general rule, it's always good to clean it out with water first and then clean it out with whatever you're going to put in it, which I think makes a lot of sense. And this is the stock solution of the Allura Red. And he's just going to fill that pipette twice and then release it twice, and then it will be ready to roll for the sample collection. So Jim's going to go ahead now and he's going to make up 1, 5, 10 and 15 mil samples. What he's done is he's got these cups here, and these cups, if we could just move off to the side here, we'll just show the cups. All these cups have been marked, one with 1, one with 5, one with 10, one with 15. Behind each of those we have a clean volumetric flask. Those flasks don't actually have to be dry, by the way, but they do have to be clean, because we're going to add water to them later anyway. So as long as they're clean, we're good to go. But those have also been marked with 1, 5, 10 and 15. Now I will note, at some campuses you may not have sufficient flasks to have 4 per group. You may have to use just 1 flask, make it up, empty it, clean it, and then make up the next solution in that flask. But we're going to go ahead and use 4 separate flasks here for the sake of ease. So let's go ahead, Jim. So what Jim's doing now is he's adding some of this stock solution to a beaker. There we go. Just leave it on the bench, that's fine. There we go. Now, how much are you putting in there, Jim? About 100 mils?
Yeah, I'll start at about 50 for now.
Yeah.
And if I need more, I'll get more.
Okay, fair enough. That sounds good. But we're never going to measure it directly out of the stock bottle. That's just criminal. So we've got a pipette here. Could you bring the pipette a bit closer, Jim? Let's take a look at a serious look at the measurements on that pipette. Do you mind? I'll put it in front here. Could you move it back just a little bit? We'll see if we can get this thing to focus. That's good. Now what you'll notice is it starts at the bottom at 9 and then goes all the way down to 0. Could you show the top there? Yeah, a little bit further down, a little bit further. There we go. Right, so it goes from 9 up to 0. We've got to be mindful of this when we're doing the measurements. So the first measurement, we're looking for 1 mil, so that will be measured to the 9. So would you bring it back up, please? As you can see here, if we have that much in there, it's not going to be 9 mils, obviously. That's just going to be 1 mil. If we want 5, we're going to take it up to the 5. If we want 10, we're going to take it up to the 0. For the 15, we'll take it up to the 0, and then we'll do another one, we'll take it up to the 5. We're going to show that right now. So the first one we're going to do is to the...
I noticed if you turn the pipette around, the other side actually has a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, it does? Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, then you can always use the other side as well. I didn't even realize that. That's great. So yeah, turn it around and look at the other side. That will give you an idea of the actual volumes. Well, it should be pretty clear to you which is which though, because you know it's obvious that if you only have a little bit in the bottom, that's going to be 1 mil. All right, Jim, let's go ahead and do some measuring here. Now what he's got is he's got this pipette filler here. We never suck this stuff up by mouth. That's awful. And he's going to stick the pipette filler on the end of the pipette. Would you please show how that's put on there? There we go, that's great.
It's a very tight fit in this case.
Yes.
And some of these are a little bit larger in size.
Right.
So just be mindful of that when you put the pipette on.
Okay, sounds good. Now you'll notice, could you just put down the shot a little bit? It's got this little wheel at the top, and what Jim's going to do is he's going to turn that wheel and it's going to suck the material up into the... Could you put it down a little bit? So yeah, just turn the wheel, and you can see how it moves the plunger up, and that's what sucks the liquid up into the pipette. You've got to be a little bit careful. Try not to suck anything up into the actual pipette filler. We don't want to do that. But he's just turning that down right now. And now he's going to go ahead and measure out 1 mil. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to bring this down a bit, and there we go. I'm going to zoom out. See if I can get the entire thing in the shot here. There we go. Yeah, go ahead. Let's do it. So what he's doing is he's hitting that roller here. He's trying to manage it so it goes up. And now the thing with the roller ones is that you can pretty easily get this up to the point you need it. So he's got 1 mil there, and it's up to the 1 mil mark.
And I'm reading the bottom of the meniscus.
Yeah, he's reading the bottom of the meniscus. Can we let's see if we can bring that forward a bit. It's going to be a little bit tricky. Let's bring this up to the camera. We'll see if we can see the meniscus here. There we go. Yeah, that's good. So he's got it down to the bottom of the meniscus on the 9 mark for the 1. Or if he turns it around, you'll see the 1 there as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and stick it into the volumetric flask. Yeah, it'll go in the cup later. So he's emptying it now. Now when he empties it, there's often going to be, well, there's always going to be a little bit left in the bottom. And that's actually part of the volume, so you don't have to make sure you get every last little bit of it out. That little bit is actually taken into account, so that's okay. So what Jim's done is he's already made up the 1 mil solution. We're going to go ahead, it's most efficient I think to go ahead and make up the other solutions as we go. So he's going to make this one up to the 5 mark. I won't show you the meniscus again on this, but he's going to make sure that he's reading the bottom of the meniscus here as he does the 5. And he's going to put that into the second volumetric flask. That way we don't have to clean it out in between each one, because we're just using the same solution in each one.
And I'm noticing the weight of the solution is trying to pull down.
Right.
So I have to hold the wheel a little bit in this case.
Oh, okay.
It is not holding. If I let go of the wheel, it's starting to fall down on its own.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's smart. You'll notice he brings the volumetric flask over. He puts it fairly close so he doesn't have to take it very far. I think that's good too. There we go. And he's just going to release all that. There's the
Notice gravity is actually pulling it down on its own at this point.
Oh yeah, okay. Alright, but he can also spin the wheel the other way and force it out that way too. But remember, there will always be a little bit left in the bottom, and that's okay because that's part of the volume. That's alright. Good-o. Remember, these flasks have been marked as well. So this little green one here was fine for the 1 and 5 mil samples, but what we were noticing, we actually tried it with the green one, and the green one would only get it up to maybe about 5 or 6 mils, and it wasn't going to be sufficient force in order to bring it up. So what we're going to have to do is use the larger pipette filler for the 10 mil volumes, and that's why we've got this other one here that Jim's going to put on. And that one will certainly have sufficient force to bring it up to 10 mils. So just be careful of that, be mindful of it. You can use the smaller ones for the smaller volumes, but you're going to need to use the larger pipette filler for the larger volumes. Some campuses will have bulb fillers, and your instructor is going to show you how to use those.
I'm noticing now I'm only raised the plunger about a third of the way.
Oh, okay. You're almost there. That's great. So that works out nice for the bigger pipette filler. So remember, he's going to take it up to the 0 mark here to put in 10 mils. That's great. There we go. Nice.
And once again, gravity was trying to...
Yeah, once again, gravity was at work at the beginning, yes. And now he's just rolling down slowly rolling it down to release the rest of the material. Alright, that's great. So what we've done so far is 1, 5, 10. Now we're going to do 15. To do the 15, he's going to do a 10 and a 5 sample into the same container. Go ahead.
I'm noticing now that the volume is approximately just above the 20. And I suspect I would need to add more liquid.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. We don't want to make it so that we're going to end up with air bubbles. So he's going to add a little bit more stock liquid to that. Obviously not the unknown yet, so be very careful. Make sure you add the correct liquid. So he's going to bring that up to the 0 mark. Looking at the bottom of the meniscus again, as always. And he's going to run that out, just as he did before. So that's only 10 mils there, but we need another 5, so he's going to dip it in again and take a 5 mil sample now. And he's got his 5. And obviously you can get that with the larger pipette filler as well. Alright, so remember a little bit left in the bottom, and that's okay. Alright, so we've got our samples now, 1, 5, 10, 15. We're going to need to dilute these now to 250.00 milliliters. Now I want you to take a look, let's take a look at one of those volumetric flasks, please, Jim. We'll just put that in front of the camera. Can you move it so we can see the line there, especially the line? Move it up a little bit, please. Okay, let's point out the line, and let's move it forward a little bit so we can get a view. So this line here is actually at the 250.00 mil mark. And one thing about filling a volumetric flask, you can always add more up to the line, but if you go above that line, you're going to have to start all over again, because there's no way that you can take the solution out once you've gone above that line. It's once you've got something in there. So what he's going to do is he's going to go ahead and add a bunch of water to it, and he's going to be careful about adding it up to the line. Now he's using one of these deionized water bottles, which is fine, and he can do that up to the point. And you'll notice he's sort of washing down the neck here, because he might have got some material into the neck of that volumetric flask. Now he's only using the DI water pretty much right up to where it goes into the neck, and then when he gets close to the line, what he's going to use is he's actually going to use a pipette. So while he's filling that, I'll go get a pipette. Alright, so what Jim's doing now is he's just adding a bunch to a beaker, and he's going to pour that in. And we can be kind of rough about this until we get to the neck of the volumetric flask. We're using DI water here, deionized water. You'll notice the color of the Allura red solution is becoming lighter as we add more water, and that's kind of what we expect. Now he's going to repeat this process for all 4 of these, but we're just going to show you for this the dilution part for this one. I want you to see the full technique here. So you'll notice he's continuing to add the water here until it gets up to the neck. And once it gets to the neck, it's going to go up fairly quickly, so I know he's going to be careful once he gets to that point. Alright, so it's still below the line, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Now what we're going to do is, he's already got some water in there, he's going to add a little bit more, and we're going to use a standard pipette here, just a glass pipette.
I'm going to get a little bit closer.
A little bit closer with the thing, okay. Then we'll put the pipette in. Okay. So he's just going to use a pipette now to add water squirt-wise or drop-wise possibly. And then I'm going to show you what the line looks like, and we want the meniscus again on that line, so the bottom of the meniscus, and that will be exactly 250.00 mils, so it can be read to 2 decimal places. So he's being very careful with that. How's it look?
About a drop away.
Okay. Yeah, just remember that if it goes over, you know, you have to start again, and we don't want that to happen. So just be very careful when you're doing that. I'm just saying that to all your students out there. All right, look good?
It's really, really close.
Okay. All right, let's go bring that up to the camera, and we'll see what that looks like with the meniscus. And just I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this a bit. Would you push it down just a little bit? There we go. There we go. So the bottom of the meniscus there is on the line, and that's exactly right. That's exactly what we want. And we're going to repeat this for all 4 of the samples here, and then we'll show you what those all look like at the end. So now he's going to mix it together, and he's got the lid for the volumetric flask there. They're going to be different depending upon the kind of volumetric flask you have.
And this one is very tight.
Yes.
Some campuses might have stoppers.
Stoppers as possible. Yeah. And you can see his technique here. One of the other things that you can do in this case, it mixes very easily. For things that don't mix very well, sometimes it's better to put maybe half of, or most of the liquid in, or a little bit up, maybe up to about that point, just below the neck, and it becomes a bit easier to mix if you have a little bit more air in there, and then dilute it at the end. In this case, I don't think it's going to matter, and just a couple of ups and downs, just like Jim did there, is going to be all you need in order to make sure it's mixed well. Alright, so we've got all 4 solutions here, and they've been diluted. They're all up to the lines here. You'll notice the lines appear in different places on each volumetric flask. It's just the way they've been calibrated. Not every volumetric flask is the same, even though it says the same size written on it. The line's going to be in a different place. So you can see all that here, and I want you to take a close look here at the colors, and you can see that for each one, this makes sense, they sort of increase in color as we go from 1, 5, 10 to 15, and that's good. But I really want you to take more note of the color inside the large part of the flask rather than the neck. It always seems to be lighter in the neck. It's just a trick of the light, really. So now what Jim's going to do is go ahead and pour each of these into the cups. Now it doesn't matter how much you're going to put in, Jim. Just about halfway?
Yeah, about halfway.
Yeah. So he's just going to fill each of these halfway. It doesn't matter exactly how much you put in, because he's going to use these cups to do the spectrophotometry part. This is a sample that actually goes in the spectrophotometer. So he's just going to fill each of those up to the halfway mark. So we've got all these samples here. You can see the colours they're grading again. You can go from light up to darker. And we've got this other beaker here, another cup with unknown written on it. And this is where the unknown sample is going to go. We're going to use the sample undiluted initially, and we're going to see what kind of measurement we're going to get on the spectrophotometer from the undiluted solution. But do keep in mind that this solution that we're using is going to have to be diluted so that it falls into the window somewhere in between the lightest one, could you point at the lightest one, and the darkest one of these samples. And it's probably going to be, I think it says this in the lab manual, you're looking at around about a 10 times dilution in order to get it into that range. But let's go ahead and pour the unknown in, undiluted, please, Jim. So this is just either standard Gatorade, or it could be Gatorade that's from a Gatorade bottle that's been put into another bottle. And if you look at that, you can clearly see that it's a whole lot darker than any of the samples that we've got shown here. So we know we're definitely going to dilute it. We're going to go ahead and take a measurement on the spectrophotometer anyway, just to get an idea of how much we need to dilute it by, but it's probably going to be by about 10 times. So this is the spectrophotometer we're going to use, and you can see that in the sides there, could you please open the sides there, Jim? And you can see this is where you're going to find the cuvettes. They'll be in there, and you can see them there, the cuvettes. All right. And Jim's actually got a cuvette out. Could you please put it in front of the camera, Jim? Now what you'll notice is that if you turn it around, you'll see that there's an arrow, and you can see the little arrow there. What I like to do is I like to make sure that that arrow goes with the light. So if you open up go ahead and open up the thing, you'll see that it goes in a certain way. The light travels from right to left. Could you just point your finger there to show where the light travels? Across like that. So you want the arrow kind of in that light, and the sample goes in this little hole here. And then we close it, and that gives us the measurement. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to set up the wavelength for this. So you'll notice here we're on the home screen. I'm going to zoom in on the home screen here, and you can see what we need to do. And I've got the buttons here as well. Alright, let's go ahead and set up the thing here. So we hit that, the sort of enter button that's in the middle there, and then we're going to fix up the wavelength. So I think don't you have to hit the down arrow to get it onto the wavelength?
Yes, we do.
So you can see that he pushed the down arrow to get it to the measurement lambda there, and you see it's on 675 right now, but we want it on what, 504?
504.
Yeah, so he's going to use that big knob there to take it down. This is a kind of like a coarse measurement. He's going to take it down to around about 500 using the big knob. That's on the left side. You can see that. That's good. All right. So it's at 505, right? So let's use the fine measurement now. We'll get. Oh, you can actually get down to 504 with that.
You press in.
Oh, okay.
And it's 1 nanometer.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Now the other way you can do it is you can use the buttons on the side there as well. Could you please hit the left? Yeah, and you can see it takes it up by 1, and down by 1 as well. So either way, either press in on the big knob, and it will give you a fine measurement that way, or you can use the arrows on the side. Okay, and now we're going to send it down to go, and then hit enter. All right, and now you can see that it's set up for 504 nanometers. Now what we're going to do is we're going to zero it. So he's got his cuvette, and he's going to put some water in it. Hopefully it's already cleaned, and you can clean it out a few times with water if you'd like, if you don't feel like it's been cleaned already.
And this process is analogous to tearing a balance?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like zeroing it out so that we're taking account of the absorbance of the water, right? So he's filling it up. Now, see how much he's filled it up? Just put it in front of the camera, please. A little bit, yeah, there we go. You can see it's pretty much just below that line. And as long as you fill it up about that much, that should be good. All right, go ahead and wipe it off with the kimwipe. We never use paper towels for this purpose. Could you please show the kimwipes once you put the cuvette in? We'll show you the box of kimwipes. Paper towels tend to be too scratchy. They'll put scratches on your cuvettes. And remember, he did put the cuvette in a certain way as well. But yeah, kimwipes, Kimtech, kimwipes. That's them. Now he's been careful to put this cuvette in with the arrows the way we showed you earlier, and now he's going to close the lid, and you'll see the absorbance here. Oops, the absorbance here isn't 0. You can see it's like 0.1 or something. So what he's going to do is he's going to hit the 0.00 button, which is in the middle there. And you can see it says performing auto zero on the top. I mean, it might be a little bit hard to see. Yes, performing auto zero, that's good.
And you notice the hourglass in the middle.
Yeah, the hourglass in the middle.
So do not open it during this process.
Right. So now it's at 0.00, the hourglass is gone, and we're ready to roll. So you should probably do this before each group. Just just zero it before each group. All right, now we've got our next process here. So that's got water in it, and he's going to empty that out into a waste beaker. And there's no real need to rinse it out with water. He's got his first sample here, and what we're going to do is we're going to rinse it. Could you put it in the camera a bit here? And yeah, that's good. He's going to rinse it with this sample. So he's going to put a bit in.
And it doesn't have to be full?
No, not for the washings. No, a few little washings is better than one big one. That's what I always say.
And the technique I like to follow is I always start with the most dilute sample first.
Yeah.
In the event of contamination.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. I like that. All right, that's excellent. So we've got that first sample. We're going to stick it in. Well, first of all, he's going to wipe it with the kimwipes. Could you put in the camera, please? And he's just wiping it off with the kimwipes. Being careful, and hold it on either side of the arrow. Are you doing that, Jim? Yeah, there we go. Especially if you're not wearing gloves at the time. You probably should be wearing gloves, but if you weren't wearing gloves, we don't want fingerprints and stuff on the side. So keep it so you're on either side of the arrow that way. Okay, let's go ahead and stick that in. So you go ahead, put it in, and then we just take that measurement on the absorbance and you just read it directly off the screen. And that's all you have to do. And you'll repeat this process, again, rinsing it out with water and then your sample twice, and then just going through and finding out each of these as we go.
And one thing to emphasize, you want to run all of your samples at this time because you want to maintain the auto zero you already established.
So Jim's going to, we've already run the most dilute sample, we're now going to run the most concentrated sample, the 15, before we run the unknown. I want you to see how much the unknown is going to be out of range. So let's go ahead, and he's going to clean out his cuvette now with the 15 sample. And you can see we're just doing the same thing as we did before. Rinsing it out twice. That's good. Now he's going to put that in, wipe it with a kimwipe, stick it in the spectrophotometer. We'll get an absorbance. It's obviously going to be more than what we did first. That was 0.06 on the first one. Let's go ahead and see what this one's going to be like. So that's about 0.96 or something like that. It's in the 0.9 range anyway, that's what I'd be expecting. Wait for it to stabilize and take that measurement. Now Jim's going to do the unknown. Now this will be the Gatorade sample. This is undiluted, this Gatorade sample, by the way. So we're just trying to get an idea of exactly how much we're going to have to dilute this by. So what he's doing is he's cleaning it out first, just like we did the other samples. Now it's up to you. You can clean it out with water first and then clean it out, but with the sample it doesn't really matter. I think it's going to be fine either way. So he's going to fill that now with the sample, and he's going to wipe it with the kimwipe. And you can see, if you look at that measurement there, it's about 2.50. I mean, that's way out of the range. You see, we want something that's between 0.06, which was the most dilute one, and between 0.94, which was the most concentrated one, going from 5 up to 15. So, sorry, 1 up to 15, wasn't it? Yeah, yes, 1 up to 15. So we're going to have to dilute this sample, and I recommend diluting it about 10 times. So I just want to give you an idea here about how to do the dilution. We're going to have to use a volumetric flask to do the dilution. So we recommend about, say, 10 times. So we've already got this Gatorade in a beaker. It's about 40 mils, roundabout. That's good. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do 25 mils of it and then put it into the 250 mil Erlenmeyer flask. You'll notice we're going to be using the volumetric pipette again. Could you just put the whole thing in front of the camera here? Yeah, there we go. With the bulb on it, just show it. Yeah, there we go. With the bulb on top, big bulb. So we're going to need to do 2 of those, 2 10s, and then a 5. And that will bring us up to 25, and we'll put that into the volumetric flask and then dilute it just as we did before up to the line, and then we've effectively diluted it 10 times. And we need to know exactly how many times we're diluting it and exactly how much we put in the first place so that we can make our measurements work. If it turns out that this is still not within the range, then you're going to have to readjust how much you're adding, either add more or less, depending on if you're below the range or above the range. And again, you'll have to make sure that you're noting exactly how much you're adding and then how much you're diluting it by. But we're hoping that 10 times should be sufficient. Now, if you have already done your previous measurements, you might find out that you need to do the dilution. So you go away and you do the dilution. You might have to re-zero your spectrophotometer at that point. So maybe it's good to make it up beforehand so that you can do it all at once, and then you don't have to re-zero your spectrophotometer. So when you're done with all these materials, including your waste beaker and everything, you can pour it into your waste container, or you can dispose of it per the instructions of your lab instructor.